joining us.
From Abuja, and I can see, Alero, you're not home alone today, are you?
I am. You abandoned me, didn't you, Ayo?
Well, not quite. You know, I can't do that to you.
Oh, okay. He says one thing and he
Don't
does
blush in
another.
public.
But anyway, I'm sure you'll be back beside me next week, so I look forward to seeing you, not on the screen, but in person.
Well, certainly, that is
Yes.
happening. That's going to happen.
Now, something's been bothering me, Ayo. You know, I keep thinking about the reasons why we were told to go register our SIMs and why we need to link our NIN to our SIM and things like that. I recall that the minister, you know, responsible for that area did say that the reason, well, one of the major reasons for asking us to do that was to curb crime and help fight criminality in the country. But from what we hear and what we read, criminals, kidnappers communicate via phone to demand ransom. And I don't know about you, I don't think I've heard of any who was tracked down via the phone he used and brought to book.
Well, it's interesting, the perspective that you've taken on this. It is something, and I'm very sure you're not the only one that is perturbed about this matter because, as you said, it's a critical element in all of the conversation about the NIN-SIM linkage that affected various sectors of the economy and that even put the businesses of some micro, small, and medium businesses at risk. One of the things, I think, just as you said, it's about time someone came out to give us, you know, what exactly is happening, what's the situation, and what do people really need to do. Because, yeah, a good number of people have linked their NIN to their SIM and their SIM to NIN, whichever one comes first. But then, when you also measure, Alero, the fact that there are some localities, while a critical reason for the NIN-SIM linkage was to curb insecurity, crime, banditry, and all those things. We have a situation where in some states, about 5 at the last count, had to shut down, the governors had to ask that the telecom infrastructure in their states be shut down. Why? For the same reason of insecurity, for the reason of banditry, to curb banditry, to curb criminality. And I'm wondering, what's going on here? And you would also find out that it's not the first time this is happening. It happened, I think, it was in 2013, 2014, when the government of the day at the time also said, you know what, let's shut this down for a little while. What we gathered is, while it may curb insecurity to an extent, it also curbed economic activities. It generated a lot of economic losses to people.
Yes.
So perhaps there is a need for someone to really come out and tell us what is happening. This NIN-SIM linkage, is it working? What are the data, what are the statistics to show us that indeed this meant something despite all the stress that people had to go through to make that happen? That's one conversation that I think we need to have as quickly as possible, Alera.
Yes, and I remember that we were told at some point that all SIMs had to be registered. So that would presuppose that the NCC has details of every number that operates in this country, has the name of the person who owns that number, and has details of that person, including the person's biometrics.
Unless there are, as you said, some things that we do not have information about, unless there are classified information that people don't really need, for which, you know, security might also be jeopardized, it's about time someone came out to tell people exactly what is going on here. Now, you mentioned NCC. That leads me to this next conversation that NCC has also raised in recent time, and that's the fact that they say that NCC is ready for 5G deployment 97% of the way.
Okay.
Now, it's about the same time that we're talking about electronic voting and electronic transmission of votes to localities and all of that. So if we are 97% ready for 5G, which is supposed to be the fastest ever data transmission platform in the world. And while the fears are there, the cheers are also there that 5G is a revolutionary idea that any nation and any people, any society would need. States are sanctioning right of way, making concessions here and there and all of that. But if we are 97% ready for 5G, that presupposes that we have significantly covered Nigeria with 4G, a good number of percentage.
Which is not true.
But we still have a situation where there are localities that don't even have 2G.
Yeah.
Some are struggling with 3G. I don't think we have, everyone in Nigeria has 4G, and now we're talking about 5G. Again, someone needs to come out and tell us exactly what is happening here. Because definitely, technology is the way to go. These things are laudable. 5G will also, hopefully, help in fighting crime, banditry, and all kinds of insecurity. But people need more information than just announcements. What do you think?
So all we have this morning is questions and questions and questions. And we shall hope that somebody will pick up the gauntlet and come and give us some answers to these questions. Because these are all questions that are also worrying other Nigerians. If we are talking about these things, it means that they're being talked about in other quarters as well around this country. Bon, as they say in French, bref. Shall we go to the menu now, Ayo?
Sorry.
We're going to start by looking at corporal punishment,
go ahead.
the Kwara case.
Well, Operation Show Your Particulars is another of those things that we're going to be talking about. What does that mean? You want to stick around for more information?
And then there's the WIMBY's conference. This happens every year, and they come and tell us about it every time.
And then, of course, why are people resisting COVID-19 vaccination? More on that later.
Good question, Ayo. Maybe you can join happily in that conversation and tell us why some people we know are also resisting. And well, we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment. And guess what? We have a he. He is a he. And, well, I'll narrow it down for you this morning. He is a well-known comedian. No, it's not Alibaba. You're wrong.
Well, I guess we'll see as time goes by. I hope you've had your cup of cocoa or cocoa. I got mine here.
See you in just a moment.
Gomo is a community in Ifelodun local government area of Kwara State, and there is where Miss Baudin Arabic School is located. On Saturday, 8 of the students, including a girl, were reported to have attended a party where they allegedly drank alcohol, which is against the rules of the school. They were punished hard for this. These videos have gone viral on social media, showing how the students were beaten for their disobedience. The only girl amongst them was not spared in this corporal punishment. Her mother, who spoke in Yoruba, says she supported the method of punishment, which she believes will correct her from indulging in such behavior in the future.
I leave everything to the government to handle. I don't have so much issue with the punishment because children and young adults these days are cast in their ways. The only challenge I have is the damage on my child.
It was not authorities as the staff declined interviews. Meanwhile, the government spokesperson, Rafiu Ajakaye, says the principal has been suspended while the incident is being investigated.
The government team made it abundantly clear that we do not subscribe to that kind of punishment. It was too much, in as much as those students may have done what went against the rule of the school. There should always be other ways of instilling discipline in them. We also made it clear that the public expectations in this day about how to instill discipline goes beyond what was seen in that video. And of course, the school authority themselves felt remorse, and the government is being circumspect in handling the issues.
The government is appealing for calm on the issue as it promises to get to the bottom of the matter.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Now let's get the show started. About a week ago, a video of some students of an Arabic school in Kwara State went viral, where in that video the children were being corporally punished because they allegedly drank alcohol at a party. The state government has set up an investigative committee on the matter, while the head of the Arabic school, who admitted to directing the punishment, has been asked to step aside. And by the way, a part of that video was shown at the beginning of this segment of the program. So, is corporal punishment, to the extent that we saw, the way to train our wards? That's what we're going to be looking at this morning, and it's my pleasure to welcome in our studio in Lagos, Mrs. Toyin Ndidi, who's a legal practitioner.
Thank you.
Of course, the legal mind immediately says, take them to court. We also have representatives of two NGOs, first of which is Family Tutor, represented by Remilekun Thompson. Good morning. And then we have the representative, the Chief Operating Officer of Advocate for Children and Vulnerable Persons Network, Mr. Ebenezer Omajailile.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Ayo, Abuja guest?
Yes. Oh, yes, we have with us here the Speaker, Girls Parliament Nigeria. And she'll be telling us a little more about that NGO, perhaps. Zainab Aminu, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, sir.
Maybe I should start from you. You're a student as well, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, first of all, first impression, because the people in Lagos, they are quite elderly, so let's start with you. When you saw the video, how did it feel?
I was so annoyed to see them beating a female child like that. It hurts me a lot. I couldn't return because I even asked my dad, I was like, is this a school? He now told me, yeah, this happened in Kwara State. So I was so annoyed, and I said, I'm going to take an action on this.
So what action have you taken?
For now, I haven't done anything.
Okay.
But in our next sitting, in our parliamentary sitting, we are going to talk about this case. I'm going to put it in the part of agendas.
Okay. Are you aware that there are laws that some people say need to be removed because some people believe it is not an offense? Some people believe because the Federal Ministry of Education says it is no more something in vogue, it should be stopped. In that regard, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, actually, like the beating of the children, yeah, it should be stopped. Not completely stopped, but at least like what happened in this Kwara State, the beating was so mercilessly, it was brutal. It was too much. At least they could have advised them first before that punishment.
How did your dad feel when you told him and you asked him the question? How did he feel about it?
He felt so bad, actually. Because he was saying, he even called me, he was asking me, as a Speaker of the Nigerian Girls' Parliament, do you think this is a good thing? So I told him no. That how would they be beating a female child like that, to the point of, I think they injured her, to the point of injuring her and stuff like that.
Have you ever been corporally punished, beaten at school?
Yeah, I've been beaten, but I don't usually do things that I'll be beaten.
You behave yourself?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I hate it when a teacher touches my body, or when anything related to flogging, I hate it. So I don't do things that would reach to that extent of flogging.
Okay. Well, Alera, I'm sure you have questions for my guest here, but let me ask the lawyer, first of all, before you come here. Let's look at the laws. First of all, is it an offense? Is it a crime? Is there anything in that action that you would say is an offense against a particular law in Nigeria?
Well, there are various things that are totally wrong with what has happened in Kwara State, especially with the assault on those children. The Nigerian Constitution, Section 34, subsection 1, actually talks about degrading torture, a person's right to be free from torture and degrading treatment. And that video showed nothing but torture and degrading treatment. The VAPA Act, VAPA law, which some states have assented to, domesticated, actually talks about the right to be free from assault. And we have the child right law, we have the criminal code, and even the penal code. That's what happened in Kwara State wasn't discipline. It was degrading and it was a torture.
Mrs. Thompson, what would you say to those parents then who were saying that it was okay? I mean, they've sent their children to be disciplined, but that was, I mean, 4 men beating 1 child. That, to a lot of people, was just going, way beyond the call of discipline.
First of all, I would like to say to the parents that they themselves need to be educated. There's a lot that they don't know. What happened, like she said, is not discipline. That is not how to discipline a child. You have dehumanized that child, you have broken the child emotionally, psychologically, and I wonder how the child will feel in class with their peers. Those are the things that matter. You need to have a total environment for a child, for the child to be able to assimilate whatever it is, and the child needs to be loved. Now, if a parent can stand in public and say that he or she is in support of this, no matter what that child has done, I think we should go back to the foundation. What was the rules and policies in the school? How was it imbibed on those children in the first place? And if they go against it, what should be done? Is this the way to go about it? There are warnings. You can't be suspended. There are ways to deprive them of necessary things, not by dehumanizing them.
Mr. Majayele, you are the COO of the Advocates for Children. In Nigerian culture, it has always been okay to corporally punish a child. So why is there so much hue and cry about this one?
Well, the narrative is beginning to change. First and foremost, I'm going to use Lagos State as a template. They're at the forefront, even though it's not perfect, as it were. But what we saw on that video, I was afraid to download the video because I see awful, worse things than this, and until my attention was drawn to it, it's barbaric, it's demonizing. And the issue of the perspective, if you listen to the mother, you can see there's a problem with the mother already. Parents are taking out the way they were brought up on their children. which has been a kind of foundational issue. And they are now beginning to do that to the children, which compound the issue of that child. In the time of the child, you are devaluing yourself. Even those kids in the school, they think that, if you look at the owner of the school, what he's trying to justify his action before those children, it shows it too has a problem.
No, so what you're saying, therefore, is that the era of corporally punishing children
is over.
Okay. You didn't even wait for me to finish.
It's over. Because children are being beaten to death. We've seen so many.
Beaten to death?
Beaten to
Yes.
death. Yes.
Yes, we've seen cases like that.
Beaten to death.
Yes.
Children are being beaten to death.
Yes.
By their parents, guardians.
By their parents?
Yes,
Yes.
their parents. It
They are
what
being
happened
beaten.
in Ikorodu?
Yes.
Where a mother was chastising the girl, 14-year-old girl, I think. She said the girl slept out. And when after 2 days, she came in and then she started chastising the girl, beating her. And the girl, it was beating her with a rod, and the girl died. See, Nelson Mandela said something, and he said, there's no keener revelation of a society's value than the way they treat their children. How do we treat our children in Africa? That's why we have a lot of violence. Because we believe that instead of us using a holistic approach to bring up children, we believe that the cane, well, not necessarily the cane, because even with the cane, we have deviance.
Well, spare the rod. What happened to that saying?
Spare the rod and spoil the child?
Yes.
Well, the rod is not necessarily a cane.
Yes.
There are things. I also used to have that belief that until you beat a child, my son will be listening to this, my first son. I did that mistake with him, and I nearly broke him. Until I had to become informed. I began to educate myself. I didn't want to lose my son. And I have 3 other children, younger ones, and they have consistently gotten the best, the most well-behaved children in school. And the school has always asked me, you don't beat, how do you get this result? Like she said.
Talking to?
Talking. Conversation. Don't talk down on children. We do that a lot in Africa. Talk.
So,
I also actually asked my children, okay, if you were the mom and I'm the child, and you have done this, what would you do? And they will tell you what they would do if they were the mom. And I was okay, can I go ahead? Oh, mom, I'm sorry, I wouldn't do that. That, you withdraw privileges. This is the era of when children have laptops and everything.
Yes, that seems to be the problem.
And also,
this internet communication.
If I'm going to chip in Kwara State as a whole, we need to look at the educational setting of Kwara State. What's the structure like? What's the structure like in Kwara State? The educational setting in Kwara State, what is it like? Because there's this program in the Federal Ministry of Education that entails that it's called safe space for children in school. But unfortunately, that safe space, if all states were able to implement that safe space, but unfortunately, some of our individuals are greedy.
The space is not safe anymore.
It's not safe anymore. They are not implementing it.
Okay.
The quality assurance, because where is the quality assurance of Kwara State Ministry of Education? Who approves such schools? Where
and
is
if there was close monitoring, there won't be
monitoring because
such.
you know, this is just one of the fraction of what we have seen in this school. I believe worse things are happening in
other
schools.
It's just that this now is the
viral.
icing on the cake. Has gone viral.
Yes.
So I'm going to hold the Kwara State government accountable for whatever has happened in that school. The Ministry of Education, the Commissioner for Education, and the governor of the state.
Okay. Ayo.
Where he just did, especially about the kind of punishment that should be meted out to who. Because, interestingly, the Kwara State government has already said, you know what, we're going to investigate. An investigative panel has been set up. And as you said earlier, Lero, the head teacher of that particular school is, well, should we say on suspension, has been asked to step aside pending the conclusion of the investigation. But let me go back to the lawyer before I come back to my guest here in Lagos. You know, there are a number of laws that, I mean, you've referenced the Constitution, and there are those who also believe, you know, having conducted various studies, there are those who believe that it's a contest between the laws, the Constitution, and the moral values of discipline in our communities. Now, you said earlier that, I mean, it's not the way to raise a child and everything, but it is clear that, as one of our guests there also said, this is the way Africans have treated and taken care of their children over the years. How do you react to that? What then should be the approach with which parents ought to beat or ought to discipline their children? And what else can government do?
Well, in my opinion, I think it's high time we begin to adopt alternative discipline strategies. Beating has not and will never solve any issue. If violence in any form is not only dehumanizing, but it's criminal, I think parents should begin to look at, you know, starting early, catch them young. In the issues of even indoctrination, you know, there's this German, during the German Nazis, a nurse, I've forgotten her name, she said, give me a child before he is 7 and I'll create a Nazis for life. What are we saying? Before these children get to this stage, what values have you instilled in them? Parents are not intentional, and that is the truth. We allow our children to grow up in the way and manner they want, and then we want miracles. You want a child to be right. Are you doing right by yourself? Because these children, they are sponges. They emulate and imitate whatever we do. If you want a kind child, start being kind from the cradle. If you want a child who is respectful, how respectful are you as a parent? You don't sow mango and begin to rip oranges. It's not possible. That's why I actually believe.
Let's address it this way, because there have been cases, there have been situations where judges in courts order that certain people be beaten 6 strokes of the cane. I mean, I remember, I'm just looking at a historical document here where a judge in Ado-Ekiti in 2011, by the way, ordered that the prosecutor should give the accused 6 strokes of the cane and adjourn that case. That's not the only one. There's another one in Abuja. 25 hawkers who are minors were ordered to be flogged 6 strokes of the cane. So indeed, it will seem like there are laws that support this kind of thing. So if the laws are there and they are being enforced, interpreted and enforced by the courts, what else do you think parents should do?
We have sociological perspective to law. Laws are what the society says they are. And we have in Africa a culture that promotes beating. And we are now saying that this, though it is codified in our laws, in some of our laws, like sentencing, we are saying that it is not necessary. Just like we are also, advocating that the death penalty be lifted because we feel that it's not serving any purpose. Beating is not serving any purpose either, too. So we should actually, and when you talk about a judge, the judge is there to implement the law, is there to carry out the law. The judge is also a reflection of the society. And if the society is a society that believes in violence, you're not expecting the judge to be any different.
Okay, well, let me quickly.
For Education and Human Capital Development for Osun State, Saadat Modibo Kao. Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, ma'am. Have you seen this video in question? Well, we can't. Commissioner? We seem to be having some technical issues. Ayo.
Maybe the commissioner needs to unmute. Kindly unmute the audio on your Zoom so we can hear you. We can't hear you at all. While you're doing that, we'll get back to you in a bit. But we still have Ms. Zainab Aminu here. Well, you've listened to some of our guests talk. On the one hand are the issues of what the law says, and on the other hand are the cultures, the religious angles, then there's popular saying, spare the rod and spoil the child, and all those things. So what is your response to those, first of all?
Yeah, like what the guest in Lagos said, that beating a child is not part of the discipline. Yeah, I'm in support of that.
But it is not against the law unless there is a law that explicitly says don't beat a child.
It's not against the law, but I think they have to put it, it has to be part of the law now. And not that they should outlaw beating completely or flogging, but it should have a limit of beating. Because like what happened now, they could have advised them not at once be beating them as if they're beating an animals. So they could have, that is not how to torture a child. Okay. They could have talked to them, advised them. Next time they do it again, they'll talk to them again, like 3 times warning them. From there, they can beat them.
There are those who also say that, I mean, you've heard some of our guests there in Lagos say that, look, it's a reflection of whether or not we're even engaging the young people at all. Their behavior is because we haven't really advised them, told them what to do or what to not do that made them do that. How do you react to that?
Yeah, that's so true.
Okay.
Because I think by talking to them, it will make them stop some things. Having conversations with them. Like for those clerical that were beating them, they could have talked to them. They could have had a conversation with them, so that they will know why they are going to do that. Why are they doing it? At least by advising, it might stick and be evergreen in their minds. They could have stopped what they are doing. But this beating, I think, like how the man was beating her, she won't gain anything from it. She'll even continue to do it. And it might make her drop out from school.
Oh, dear. Well, let's see if we have the Commissioner for Education and Human Capital Development in Osun State with us now. Saadat Modibo-Kawu, thank you for joining us. Can we just confirm that you can hear us? Well, I guess we'll still keep trying. But let me go to family tutor Remilekun Thompson. Now, you have already said that, look, it is important for parents to know and all those things. But it would seem like sometimes the parents don't even have a better alternative themselves. There are those who believe that beating children is like a last resort of sorts, because it's really difficult to get children to do things that you want them to do. Some of them can be recalcitrant. In fact, there is a document that says it is not really intended to as a punishment, a deterrence, but more out of frustration, because it will seem like the children keep doing the same thing again and again. What kind of tutoring should families be having around this kind of conversation?
Okay. I believe strongly that parenting it's a process, and even parents themselves, they need to be educated in the aspect of bringing up children, in the sense that you need to understand your child. Who is this child? Does this child have strong will, or can be influenced easily? Things like that. The way you bring up A is not the way you should bring up B. Or the way, like for instance, let me use myself as an example. My daughter, my first daughter, I can say she's a very easy child to bring up, because just like the same way my sister too, once you tell her sit there and don't stand up, she doesn't do that. She will never disobey. But my second daughter, if you ask her to sit, she will ask you, why do you want me to sit down? Because she's vocal. And I'm like, why are you talking back to me? You know, I got to understand that these kids are different. And I can't shut her up anymore. Because if I do that, I'm breaking her. I'm making her not to be bold and confident the way she should be. So, you see, the same children from the same parents, and they are both different.
Yeah.
So we as parents, we need to learn. We need to learn and educate ourselves how to treat these children. While you're doing that, you need to live as an example to those children. What you do daily, they see it. There's something you call learning by seeing. You don't need to tell them anything. They're just watching you. They are watching the way you shout. They're watching the way you bang the door. They're watching the way you slam the door and you shout on yourself as parents. And the next thing they do it. And you're like, where did you get that from? No, they got it from you. So these are the things that we need to be careful when we do around our children. We just need to be careful because we are just acting things out for them to follow suit. So as parents, we ourselves need to get educated. We need to go for trainings. We need to read books. We need to understand when we need to understand when these children are, what they are doing and the way we should relate with them. Totally.
Essentially, you are saying parents should go back to school, and I think I can understand that.
Yes.
But let's see if we can hear the Commissioner for Education and Human Capital Development in Osun State again.
Kwara
Good
State.
morning, ma'am.
It is Kwara State.
Good morning. Yes, Kwara State.
Finally, could you kindly
finally.
lower the volume of maybe your television set there so we can hear what you're saying quite well, because the voice is literally howling back. So while you're doing that, first of all, tell us your impression of this video when you first learned about it.
Oh, well, when I first heard about it, like every other person all over the world, I was extremely, extremely unhappy. It's a barbaric and distasteful video, to be honest, and it's not something that should have been done in the first place. What we are doing really in the Ministry of Education and Human Capital Development is to see how we can restructure the schools of Arabic and Islamic studies. This school is a school of Arabic and Islamic studies. And like we are all aware, His Excellency has set up a committee, and the committee has been inaugurated already. In fact, they are in that community as I speak. They have gone there to meet with the affected students, their parents, and of course the school authorities to find out exactly what it is that happened, because they are supposed to, as a committee, review the reward and disciplinary methods in the schools. That's the schools of Arabic and Islamic studies now, precisely. They are also to make recommendations to our government on how to prevent a reoccurrence of such in our state, and also make necessary suggestions to the government on this issue going forward. The desk officer of the schools is in the Quality Assurance Directorate of our ministry, Dr. Abdul Hamid Sani, and is the secretary of this committee. And I'll tell you something. A week before this happened, in fact, the week it happened on a Sunday, and the Tuesday that week, I actually met with the proprietors of those schools in the state, because I saw that they don't really have a structure unlike the normal conventional schools in our state. So I wanted us to meet with them to see how we can restructure the schools, and also to know what they are teaching our students in the schools. So that is ongoing as a ministry. And with this now, it has just made us as a team in the ministry to know that we need to act faster, because more and more when you are going to punish children, it has to be constructive. It doesn't have to be destructive. What the world saw was a destructive punishment for our children, so to say.
Well, one of the questions that I have put to the lawyer in the House in this discussion that we're having is concerning the laws. There are those who quote particular section 250-something of the Penal Code, and who are wondering, look, if the law doesn't abrogate it, if the law doesn't say it's a bad thing, what then do we do? But you'll please answer that question when we return from this break, madam. So please stay with us.
Thank you very much. All right.
Rose, the Commissioner for Education and Human Capital Development in Kwara State, is still with us this morning. Well, Madam, concerning the laws, there are those who say, look, there isn't any law in our books that says outrightly no beating, that outrightly outlaws corporate punishment. In fact, the Federal Ministry of Education said, look, as our guest in the studio here said, look, only the head teacher in a school can beat a child. But concerning the reforms that you are considering in the state right now, what is going to happen concerning the laws that do or do not outlaw corporate punishment?
Okay, yeah, thank you. Most importantly, I would want to take us back a little. What really is a school? You know, a school or whatever form of system of education is supposed to be a small world or a community for molding the younger generations for future leadership. And it's also useful for them to be able to use everything they have learned in our schools to better their own lives and to better the lives of the larger community as well. So for us to be able to achieve this, really, we must inculcate in them the such qualities and etiquettes that are bases of life in order for them to be able to develop themselves and the larger community. So if we are saying the law, the law doesn't spell it out, really, yes, we are aware of that. But again, as educators, we need to know that rewards and discipline are of great importance to achieve any objectives in our schools. So we need to critically weigh those options. If we reward things like exam results, scholarships, and prizes, we must also ensure that the discipline that is not restricted to beating, caning, or inflicting punishments that can cause injuries. What we saw there was injuries on the bodies because we did take these children to the hospital. I was with them there when we were taking. And we saw that these children also were injured in the process. You know, so it's important going forward from the Federal Ministry of Education now and in our different states for us to check again. This, we have to just make sure that things are done differently. We can't continue to do it the way it had been done in the past. Some have said, yes, when they were growing up too, they were beaten and all of that. But what we saw in that video were even students beating the students. I think that is very, very wrong. Then we had about 4 or 5 hands beating a single person. So these are the things that our committee will be looking at critically to ensure that going forward, we don't see this type of things again in our schools. We need to weigh the options. What are the methods that will be used going forward? How can we ensure if you have beaten them, have you changed anything? No, you haven't, because I had a discussion with these students, with about 4 of them after it happened, you know. And for yes, they were remorseful. The girl even said, yes, my mom told me not to go for the party, and I didn't listen to my mom. But then we would have spoken to them. We would have counseled these children because again, they are from 18 years. They are children that have finished their secondary education. The one that celebrated that party in question was celebrating the 21st birthday party. You know, so the world is changing and the children are informed. It's always better to have discussions with these children than just the beating aspect of discipline. No, I think that is really wrong.
Yeah. Are there separate rules for discipline that apply to Islamic schools and than apply to other schools?
Okay,
Is the rule not the same from the Ministry of Education?
Yeah, before now, sincerely speaking, there was nothing on ground for this, for the schools of Arabic and Islamic schools. And like I mentioned earlier, when I got to this ministry, you are aware, if you have been following the news of our state, the governor has invested so much in the education sector, infrastructural development and all of that. And what I always say, qualitative education is not about infrastructure. So what this government of His Excellency Abdurrahman Abdulrazak is doing differently is a holistic approach to also ensure that while we are investing in structure, we are also trying to do that for human capital, the caregivers and the educators of our schools. So before now, believe you me, the schools of Arabic and Islamic studies did not have a structure. They didn't have that relationship with the ministry. And I did say again that this happened on a Sunday. Just that Tuesday before, I held a meeting with the proprietors to see how we can, as a ministry, using the Directorate of Quality Assurance to have a structure in place for these schools. So they didn't have a structure before now, that's the truth.
If they didn't have a structure, how come they're allowed to operate?
Yeah, we are talking of the past administration now. I mean, you know, this is a new government in my state. So it was a government that was not deliberate. It was a government that didn't pay attention to the details we are doing now. So we are trying to do things differently. How they came into being, how they made they could operate without even recourse to the ministry, I wouldn't know. These are new governments and we are doing that differently. And that was why I held that meeting before this even happened, for us to have a committee set up to be able to restructure the schools of Arabic and Islamic studies.
How do you intend to deal with the psychological effect of this on those children?
Like I said, we have gone to the hospital. Then the ministry also has a directorate that has a unit of guidance and counseling. So my team will be working with these children. That was also disclosed in the press that was released from the state government. So we'll be meeting with them. Like I said, the members are in that school now, meeting with the students in question, meeting with their parents, meeting with the teachers and the management of the school. We have about 2 different groups doing all of that. So we will be doing that to ensure that we work on the mental after effects for the children in question, because again, they are children, so we have to treat them right.
Normal circumstances in other schools, does corporate punishment of this nature go on in Kwara State?
None that we have been told yet. I doubt much, and that's why, as a state, we all frown at this that happened in that Islamic school. None that we are aware of. None that we are aware of, to be honest.
Well, I don't know if I can ask Madam, just before we let you go, what's the timeline for this investigation? How soon before we hear anything concrete about the progress made concerning this case?
We have the shortest time possible. So it's just a week. It's just a week. So by next week, the reports will be submitted to His Excellency, the Governor of Kwara State.
Thank you. Let me go back to Mrs. Thompson in the Lagos studio very quickly. Does this position of the Kwara State government appease you in any way, the approach being taken to look at this issue?
Well, personally, I feel a child psychologist should see those children. I personally feel that a child psychologist should see these children, and also the parents involved need to be educated. They need to be informed. See, there's something that the fact that the parents are also in support of this, it's so hurting to me. I don't know how the children can feel, they are actually feeling right now. They need to be educated and they need to support their children. If possible, apologize to them. See, this is not discipline anymore. It is not.
Abuse.
There's a part of love in all of this. Well, in bringing up children, you cannot take away love. Where is the part of love in this? Where you want a child to be better eventually. At what point? At what point do you cross that line? And the child will begin to resent you and begin to withdraw. And then you finally lose the child. This is the point. So I think something should be done. The children, a psychologist should see those children, and the parents should be involved.
Commissioner, there's that conversation that he raised now concerning talking to the parents themselves. Many parents don't see anything wrong with flogging the children in order to instill discipline in them. And you have also said that they don't learn anything. If anything, they could get worse. So is there any plan to have conversations with parents, religious leaders, traditional rulers who have been in this practice, who were raised this way, perhaps themselves, as one of our guests, the man in the studio, said earlier. Is there any plan to have conversations with parents or a public enlightenment along that line?
Yeah, definitely, we would have to do that because the first day we were in that school, we were there as a government. The first intervention was to just rush there to meet with the parents, and we met with the dad, the girl's dad. And he said to us that he was the one that actually told them to do that. And I asked him one question. I said, if they had done that and something went wrong and the girl died, what would have happened? And he couldn't even respond to me. Then the mom also met us there and we had a discussion with her. Yeah, she said, she had told the girl not to go, and also did even say to the girl that if you go, whatever happens to you, you're on your own. And I found that strange. So definitely would have to do that, to inform the parents, to also have those discussions going forward. I think it's very important to engage all the stakeholders concerned. It's an important part of our work.
Mrs. Cow, are you aware that 1 or 2 states in the Federation now have zero tolerance for corporal punishment?
Going forward, we'll have to implement that in our states as well. We'll have to implement that. We have no choice than to do that because, this is we should have a stop to it immediately. So definitely would also consider that in our state.
A child is one thing, but what we saw in that video is not just about beating a child, where 4 adults are caning a child who is on his knees. And there was even a video of them caning the 4 men again, caning a girl. A girl child was caned in that manner, which means she disfigured. The boys were certainly disfigured because we saw their backs. I mean, definitely. Will that not affect the psyche of the child, the confidence of the child, Mr. Mejalile?
Yes, it would. It will completely damage the child. And look at the girl child, for instance. Now we just had, this is the week, I think wrapping up this week of the International Day of the Girl Child.
Yes.
Going by the Beijing Conference of 1995 and the ratification of 2011, that's what we have now. If we're really going to say we are serious about the 2030 goal, the SGV, that those 17 units, every girl child on to pass through, they can harmonize this situation. With what you saw there now, it shows a long disparity of what we're talking about, the gender-based violence we talked about. There's no equality anywhere. And you are demonizing the child. You're not making her feel like a mother to be. Because now she's going to grow up with that kind of mentality. Those of them who are involved in this beating are already damaged products.
Yes.
They are already a damaged product from what you are seeing. And you can see the level of impunity as if nothing is going on. And like I said, and I still repeat, it's just a fraction of what we've seen of what has gone wrong in that school.
So a lot more is going on than we have seen.
On across the so-called schools they have in that state. It's not only in the state. There are so many ones that are worse that are happening across Nigeria. It's just because the ones you and I are able to see. And for that girl child, as we're talking about, they ought to put it in place. They should try to dignify the self-esteem of those girls right now. It's not about putting into question. Like they say, the law. They keep on saying the law, the law, the law. And I keep going by the Aristotle philosophy that says great laws don't bring great men, but great men bring great laws. So the present government, the present commissioner, I think this is the time to act on it.
Okay. Now Zainab, you are of the Girls' Parliament. When you saw the video of the girl being beaten, what were your thoughts?
When I saw the video, I was intensely sad. And I was surprised when I saw a girl child. When I saw them beating that girl child, I was like, why would they be beating a girl child like this? Very hard, a very brutal, mercilessly beaten that might destruct her life. She's a future mother. Don't they think she might grow with this trauma in her, feeling this like stigmatization Why would they just do that? Because it's kind of, it's very bad for them to be beating a girl child like this. I think even Islamically, it's a bad thing for you to be beating a girl child like this. And it's not even the head teachers or the teachers of the school. It's now a fellow boys. Like, there are also students in the school beating her like that. So I think that's very bad. And the government has to do something on that, especially for the girl child.
So I'm gonna take this to just a moment, Alero.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask Mrs. Ndidi this question concerning some of the comments made by the Commissioner for Education and Human Capital Development in Kwara State. On the one hand, of course, you've listened to everything that she said and the action that government intends to take. She's also referenced the laws, just as you have said. I'm just wondering, because sometimes it is not just having the law that is the issue. It's the enforcement. And if there is no enforcement of those laws, it's as good as just having the law as a novel. In terms of enforcement of the laws that indicate that we shouldn't, go that whole route at all, talking about the rights of the child, right to dignity and all of that. This question is actually for Mrs. Ndidi, the lawyer. How should we be engaging in terms of enforcement of that law? What should be our direction?
Like you said, beautiful laws. We have some very beautiful laws, but the problem we have consistently experienced is the implementation. You are going to report a case of child abuse at the police station, and the policeman is telling you, a DPO has once told me that human rights lawyers and activists are the cause of moral decadence in the society. And I'm wondering, where is that coming from? Because when you believe that a law enforcement agent who is supposed to protect the child himself is telling you that, oh, the abuse that has happened to a child is okay, it's fine, you begin to get worried. I believe that if we have a government with political will, implementation will not be difficult. I will use Lagos State, for example, because this is where I reside and where I have had many interactions with the government. There are enforcement units. For instance, there is the creations, parastatals that the government has created, to make sure that when you report, cases like this are treated and they are taken up. If we continue to have laws that are not implemented, when I say implemented, there has to be intentional creation of agencies that will take care of these cases. If we have in Lagos we have had traffic issues and the government deemed it fit to create LASMA, to alleviate the traffic issue. I think that to enforce these laws, there should be agencies created to do such. In Lagos, we have the special offences and sexual court, sexual assault court. It's a special court created to protect and treat issues of sexual offences. That should be the way it should be all over the federation.
Well, Mr. Omojalile, I'm also very curious as to what your thoughts are on how the implementation of the laws should go. The laws are there. There are, of course, as you heard earlier, there may not be anyone that says explicitly, do not flog a child. Our guest in the studio here also says, look, we don't necessarily need to completely outlaw flogging, but at least it should be minimized. In terms of that, what are your thoughts? And if we're going to take this, further as a people, down through the generations, what should our progression be?
It's talking to me.
Can you hear me? Yes, I'm talking to you, Mr. Omojalile.
Please, can the question come again? Let me repeat the question. I didn't get it from the first time.
Okay, I'm just asking you. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you clearly.
Okay. I'm asking you, in terms of what the commissioner said and the laws that may or may not completely, explicitly outlaw corporal punishment, if we are going to educate people, educate the children, educate the parents, and also use the law, what way should we go about it? It's one thing to have children, it's another thing entirely to bring them up the way they should be brought up. So what would you suggest should be our progression going forward?
Our progression going forward, first of all, with what we've seen in Kwara State, there should be a complete disorientation of such abnormalities to occur again. Complete engagement of all the stakeholders. And also, the line ministries should be on their toes now. If all the line ministries are on their toes and they are effective, I don't think we'll be having such situations in Kwara State. First and foremost, the team that are set up and also work with the civil society. There should be a monitoring unit in the state that will pay impromptu visits to the schools, because there's a lot of damages taking place in the various schools as we speak. Even here we claim that, yes, we have zero tolerance, there's still a lot of abuses. So it's a complete disorientation of the system and those who manage the system. Because I tell you, even those in the system and those, if it has not gone viral, it would have been silenced. And those children will grow up as damaged adults to the society. So going forward, a complete disorientation of the system positively to both the handlers of such situations and the children. Nobody should be accepted.
You've also said earlier, my apologies, you've also said earlier that that this is just a macrocosm, that there could be so many other cases all over the nation in all 36 states of the Federation. What then should be done to have a unified approach to raising children without or with minimal corporal punishment?
Like I said, I mentioned something about the safe space under the federal government, Federal Ministry of Education, in the agenda. If that particular unit, particular program is well implemented, goes with a lot of sensitizations, goes with a lot of jingles in schools and educations, every parastatals have that safe space. It will go a long way, because it's just that issue, safe space for children, is hidden. It's hidden right now, because if you have that space, safe space, like Kwara State is attending the meeting, all the commissioners, I know there's a meeting, all the 36 states, there's 36 commissioners across Nigeria do meet on safe space. If they have been attending the meeting, yes, of education, if they've been meeting, I think, like we said, Lagos is at the forefront of what we are talking about now, that there are gaps there, but they are still at the forefront. So Kwara State, that safe space should be implemented, because it is the agenda of that safe space was that every such abnormalities that we've seen and is occurring, because I said that because based on what we see every day, I'm on the feed 247. My phone keeps ringing 247, and I keep seeing such situation every day. And what do we say? We call on the authorities. At times you get fed up, you get burdened, you get disinterested, because it's not about now. This action we're talking about, there should be total proactiveness, not response. Because now I could hear the commissioner say they rush down to the school. If they have been proactive, there will be preventive measure. That proactiveness would communicate the issue of preventing such situations. Everybody will know that if I do this, I'll be punished. I'll be punished. That is my submission on this.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Omojalile. Let me ask you, Ms. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
The International Day of the Girl Child just ended,
Yes.
just not too long ago, I guess about a week or so. How was it celebrated?
The International Day of the Girl Child was on the 11th October 2021. It was celebrated, actually, we said the girl child, in many places, like in all the parts of the world, the girl child was celebrated. It was a day that recognized the observance of the girl child. So We discussed a lot of issues about the challenges and problems girls are facing in Nigeria.
What are some of those challenges that you discussed?
We have illiteracy, poor sanitation, early marriage, lack of funding, poverty. We have violence at school, like what just happened, this choir case. We also have gender-based violence, like the sexual abuse, harassment, and other physical and sexual abuse.
So,
And
go on.
you know, there are a lot of problems girls are facing these days. A lot of problems. So, like I said, like over 246 million of boys and girls are harassed on their way to school and stuff like that. But most of them are girls, with particularly girls. Girls are more vulnerable to that. So let's relate it to this case now. I think beating that girl child is not supposed to be like that because she's a potential mother. How do you expect her to keep this trauma till she grows? And do you think this beating will make her to stop what she's doing?
Okay, part of what you discussed, you must have come up with some resolutions. What were the decisions, what were the conclusions that you made about how those issues should be addressed?
Yes, like solutions, right?
Yeah.
We have, I think we should continue creating awareness, like we're doing in our NGO. And I think the government should create some funds for the education of the girl child. Because almost, you can, if you see the girl child that are not going to school, they're one of the most important problems girls are facing is lack of education nowadays. Because it's usually lack of funding. They don't have money, so the parents think it's better they spend the money on the boys to get education, thinking educating the girl child is just not important. And educating a girl child is not only important to her, but it's important to the economic roots, because she's going to educate her children and other generations coming.
Do you see both governments at all levels, federal, state, or local, and the parents themselves having the right thinking futuristically, thinking about the future of the girl child from your perspective?
Please, can you repeat the question?
Do you think parents and government at all levels are giving attention to raising the girl child the way the girl ought to be raised, at least from your own perspective?
Not really.
Why do you say so?
There are actually not only the government, individually or personal, parents, especially the northern parts. They only face attention on the boys. Their target is the boys. They don't used to remember that girls are potential mothers. They don't.
Why do you think that is?
Because they feel the girl child is going to just get married, especially the northern parts. Because I think the southern part don't do this actually, but the northern parts, they feel the girl is going to marry, and she'll end up in the kitchen cooking food. So they feel that she's not good. But for a boy to get education, they think he's going to help them. He's a man. He's this. But a girl child is she's going to get married. She'll be there for her children and her husband, and other things like that.
But there are exceptions. You would agree with me. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations is Amina Mohammed. She is from the Northern Extraction. The current Finance and Budget Planning Minister, she's also, from the Northern Extraction. So there are some exceptions.
There are, but it's few.
Okay.
It's few.
Okay.
It's not like 90. It's like 16% in the northern part, actually.
Okay. So, Mrs. Thompson, having listened to this young lady, the Speaker of the Girls' Parliament Nigeria, and some of the perspectives that she has about how children, especially the girl child in the region that she's mentioned, are treating the girl child, raising them societally and all of that. What would be your thoughts in terms of how to help raise children, especially from the northern extraction, as she has said, properly. But first of all, do you agree with her?
Well, I totally agree with her. She's right by saying that it's actually few of the girls that are educated. And I think it all boils down to the parents as well. We need to educate these parents, to make them see the light in the fact that if the boy and the girls are educated, we can eradicate poverty. It cannot be just the boys alone. It has to be both for this to work. And then the challenges the girl child is facing is, you know, I think the girl child is actually a gift to the world. Personally, I think so, because naturally for the girl child, they can multitask. It's a gift for them. So why would you have such and not utilize it and not make the best out of them? That is what we should be thinking of. A girl child can be here, she's cooking, she's thinking of how to go and pick up the next child. She's thinking of how, she's also in a Zoom meeting with her office. She can do all of that and she can still keep her home. If a girl child can do all of that, why don't we bring out the best in them and educate them? Education is important. And this discrimination, this gender-based inequality, I was at a school and, children, these ones are, more enlightened. And I told them that, I was talking about this International Girls' Day, and I said that, I brought out a boy and a girl, and I said, both of you are equal. And, you have a right to education. But it wasn't like that before. They were shocked. Like, why? Why would I stay at home and my brother go to school? It was new to them. But that's what it is in the North. They feel that once you start seeing your period, you are getting ready for child marriage. It's wrong. It is totally wrong.
Zainab, you spoke about creating awareness for all the things you said were to be achieved, by the International Day of the Child. And one of them was early marriage. How is that going to work out when it is the leaders who are supposed to be talking about this and implementing this, who are marrying the girls who are 13 and 14 years old?
Yes. Yes, what you said is actually true. Because almost, it has been estimated that I think over 1 million girls under the age of 15 are getting married under the age of 18 years old. And this is very wrong, because the girl doesn't even know, she can't even take care of herself, take care of the husband and the children at that time. She's too young. So I think this early child marriage should be outlawed completely, unless you're 18 years old.
Well, looks like we're running out of time. So, I mean, Ayo?
Well, yes, we really have to close this segment now, but we have to thank you very much, everyone who has been here. I'll leave the rest to you there, but let me, first of all, thank the Speaker, Girls Parliament Nigeria, Zainab Aminu, for being our guest this morning and offering her thoughts. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Alara, it's yours.
Okay. We had with us as well the Commissioner for Education and Human Capital Development of Kwara State, Saadat Modibo Kau. Thank you very much for joining us today. And in our studio in Lagos, we had, let me start with the guy this time. We had Ebenezer Omajailile, who is Chief Operating Officer, Advocate for Children and Vulnerable Persons Network.
Thank you for having me.
We also had Remilekun Thompson, representing Family Tutor, which is an NGO. And we had a legal practitioner, Mrs. Toyin Ndidi. Good morning, everybody, for joining us to look at this critical issue this morning. Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do join us and be part of it. Thank you for staying with us. Last week, the Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC, flagged off its Ember Month's campaign with the message, drive safe to stay safe. I would say drive safe to stay alive. The sensitization is against night travels especially, and to sensitize road users on safety measures to forestall crashes and road traffic-related incidents during these Ember months. And remember, Nigerians do not joke with their travel home at Christmas. For some people, that is not to be compromised. So between now and December, there's heavy traffic along our highways of people going to spend time with their loved ones over the festive period. This morning, it's my pleasure to welcome the Sector Commander of the Federal Road Safety Corps, Lagos, Mr. Olusegun Ogungbemide. Good morning.
Good morning, Ma. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Now, this campaign has taken off, and among other things, you're also checking motorists' papers. Private, public, everyone is having their documentation checked. What prompted that decision at this time of the year?
Thank you very much. When we say we are checking motorist papers, I will need to correct that
Please.
message.
Please.
Because checking papers will amount to checking the entire documents of the driver.
Okay.
But the one that is of relevance to us at this moment is the driver's license.
Oh, that's all you are checking?
Yes.
Okay, people, take note. Federal Road Safety is only checking your driver's license, not your insurance, not your vehicle, not your road tax, not your, what's the other one called? Roadworthiness.
Yeah.
Just your driver's license. That's wonderful news.
Yes, that's, and what really prompted it is because of the trend of crashes that has been recorded over time. Right from the beginning of the year, like I gave my data recently, that from January to date, we've lost about 101 road users, and more than, if I'm not mistaken, more than 460 have been injured. And for us to get it right in line with the United Nations Decade of Action policy of reducing fatality by 50% between 2021 and 2030, we have to check the rudiments of the problem. And the nitty-gritty of the problem is how these driver's licenses are being procured. Because if you don't have driver's license, you don't have any business being on the road.
Okay, so did you find that many of those accidents were caused by people who did not have valid driver's licenses?
Anytime you want to assess issues of crashes on our roads, it's always approached from every angle.
Okay.
Because one thing is, when you find yourself on the road without a valid driver's license or without driver's license at all, it's as good as the entire society sitting on gunpowder. Because we believe that when you don't have valid driver's license, it means you don't understand the rudiment of driving, and your presence of the road amount to risk to other road users. So in the course of the year, we also confirmed that many people are not having this driver's license. If I could arrest 15,000 people in the first quarter of the year, and driver license issue happen to be prominent there too, is an indication that I should checkmate that something is actually wrong. Okay. And that was what prompted that decision.
Okay. Now, tell us about obtaining driver's licenses today. What is the process like now? The process
should be a good news to Nigeria because we've been able to build integrity of acquiring driver's license. Unlike in the olden days where you sit at the comfort of your home and somebody comes around and pick your passport, and the following day you adore with driver's license. Today, before you can acquire a driver's license, you have to undergo 26-day syllabus from a reliable, standardized driving school.
Okay.
That is the number one step.
Okay.
And it's after the 26 syllabus have been concluded that your certificate will be produced. It's automated.
Okay.
It's not something you can you can, let me say, intercept along the process.
Okay.
That line of syllabus system must be concluded before it can generate your certificate. And the certificate has a code that is personal to you.
Okay.
It's the code you use in accessing the portal from where you apply to acquire driver's license. And having done that, if you've gotten that code, you now present yourself to VIS, that's Vehicle Inspection Services, that have gone through the driving school, a standard driving school as recommended by Federal Safety Corps, and I want to present myself for driver's license. So you'll be tested for proficiency.
Okay. How does one know which driving school is actually approved?
Yes, it is already on our portal. That's the Federal Safety website, www.frsc.gov.ng. Or when you assess, when you want to know driving schools that are approved by Federal Safety Corps, you see all the details.
The list is there. Okay.
And you can also approach our centers, our various driver's license centers. They will be able to acquaint you with those that are in Lagos. That's the best way you can actually assess a driving school that is recognized by the Federal Safety Corps. Because those are the ones that have gone through the necessary prerequisites of getting all it takes to be called a standard driving school.
Okay, let's go back to this, your campaign. If I'm not mistaken, around this time, almost every year, you come out with this campaign because you're trying to, you know, curtail accidents on the road because so many people are on the highways traveling. How much success has the campaign yielded?
Well, over the years, by the time you look at what will have happened if these campaigns are not there, you appreciate the success we have made over the years.
Has it resulted in reduced numbers of accidents?
Sure.
And,
you know why I'm saying this? It depends on the theme of each campaign.
Okay.
And, you know, FRSC, our process is always based on intelligence reports. Like when we realized in the past that the drivers or the passengers, the commuters now, are not playing the role they should play while on transit, we came out with a process of campaign that says Operation Speak Out. That's Sorosuke, but not in line with NSAS this time, but in line with our own job, because we realize that when commuters are inside the vehicle, traveling from one point to the other, under a few minutes, they have half of the occupants of the vehicles are asleep. Many people get involved in crashes, and when it's fatal, they don't even feel the pains of fatality because they were sleeping and they just opened their eyes and discovered that they are gone.
Well, they won't open their eyes.
Whether they will open their eyes, I don't know. But the essence of that one is we realized that people were not taking this message as serious as we intended. And I said, if the man is misbehaving as a driver, you have a role to play as a passenger.
Okay.
Do you know it work like a bomb?
What is that role that they have to play?
The role they have to play is, as a passenger in the vehicle, your role starts from the point when you get to that vehicle. The vehicle you're about to board, does it meet up with the minimum safety standard? You look at the tires. I can't enter a vehicle that the tire is already worn out and is to take me from one point to the other, and I will say, God will protect me. And you sit down inside the vehicle, you discover that virtually all parts of the vehicle are torn. You can even see the main road from inside.
From inside.
I'm sure you must have come across vehicles like this. And you also realize that the vehicle is not even having side mirror. Many people undermine the importance of side mirror. A driver is driving you and is looking at the back, turning practically to look the back rather than using the side mirror because it's not available. Those are the kind of driver that enter road without looking. And you notice that your driver does not even have what's it called, wiper, and we are in the raining season. He's taking you and he's bringing out his hand with a towel to clean his windscreen, and you say God will take control. And you were seated, and a man was just coming towards your vehicle, about to board the vehicle as the driver, and you notice that he's drunk, and you keep quiet. That's where it starts. Assuming you were able to clear all this cobweb, maybe it's not there, it's a clean vehicle, and you now enter the vehicle and it's a clean driver, and he's driving and making call, and you keep quiet. Anytime I have reason to travel in a commercial vehicle, my focus is always the inner mirror, because that's when you can see the countenance of the driver. Practically 50% of drivers boarded were always struggling with sleep. You see them blinking their eyes and yawning, and that's why we plead with members of the public that they should engage their drivers when they're on transit.
Okay.
Always engage him positively.
Keep them awake.
Keep him awake.
Yeah.
And when you feel he's beyond his control, you all advise him, agree as a body, Mr. Man, you can park a while and rest.
Okay.
It's all about taking us to our destination.
Okay.
And those are the things we have achieved in the course of our public enlightenment over the years.
Okay, so you have told passengers, well, you had a campaign that passengers should say something. How are they going to say something if they see anything?
Yes, well, okay, it depends. It could be internal and external. Internal is when it has to do with you communicating with the driver.
Okay.
Driver, that call you are making is a distraction.
Okay.
Federal safety call regulation does not permit, Nigerian traffic regulation does not permit it. You are going to get distracted. Driver, your speed is too much.
Okay.
We are not rushing to anywhere. But as a corporation, as a corporate, you just form a corporate setting within the vehicle. All of you must speak with one voice.
So if I see that he doesn't have a wiper or his tires are all smooth,
don't board the vehicle.
Is that all I can do?
You can report
to road safety.
Apart from road safety now, you can report to the authority of the motor park.
Okay.
It's either as an organized motor park or this corporate transport union.
Okay.
You can report. Then we've had an experience, if you recall, a few months back, when a passenger called Federal Safety Corps along Lagos-Ibadan Expressway that the driver was driving dangerously. He called 122. 122 called the sector commander of Ogun State, and that driver was stopped, and that journey was truncated to save the passengers. These are the things we've done over the years, and have saved so many people's lives.
Ayo.
Thank you, Alera. Let me just very quickly ask Mr. Ogungbemile, when you say that we should you're only looking at driver licenses, of course, that's valid. I mean, whoever has to be on the road must be licensed to drive. But then you have also listed some infractions, if I can use that word, of vehicles on the roads. Those that do not have rear view mirrors, those that you can literally see the road you're traveling on right there in the bus and all of that. Shouldn't we also, in some cases, be looking at roadworthiness of these vehicles?
But when I say we are just emphasizing on driver's license now, I just mentioned the issue of intelligent enforcement has been put in place by Federal Safety Corps. I am not saying that when you have an infraction that has to do with roadworthiness, the issue of asking for your roadworthiness will not be there. But we are not out at this moment to start asking for roadworthiness paper when you have not committed any infraction that has to do with that. So there are two ways to it. When you commit an infraction, and that has been the mode of Federal Safety Corps operation, there must be primary offense being committed before we can ask for your vehicle papers. At this moment, with the request for drivers to show their driver's license issue has now become a primary offense, because that's what we are out to check out, to look out for. And that is just the process. So if your vehicle is not roadworthy, definitely I will want to confirm your certificate to show whether if you have worn-out tires and you have a certificate that says your vehicle is roadworthy, I will have to question how you got it. And such vehicle is always impounded.
Okay. Well, another thing, you just mentioned something, interesting, because a number of people have complained about this. There are those who, upon incidental arrests, just for want of a better word, they find out, I don't know if this is, under your authority, but they just find out that at the point of being questioned by authorities, some tell them, you actually have a ticket that's been with you, that's been against your name for some 3-4 months, and you need to clear it before we can let you go. If people find such things, how should they react? They didn't even know that there was any offense against their names, only to find out 6 months, 7 months down the line that they need to pay some fines.
That one is not quite peculiar to Federal Safety Corps style of operations. Where we have such, even you yourself will have known that you committed an offense, an infraction. Maybe you escaped in the course of being apprehended. That's the one that is actually prominent in Federal Safety Corps. When you commit an offense and you escape, that's arrest, your vehicle is declared wanted. And you will know that you escaped from an arrest, but not the one that is ambiguous to you.
You are not wanted. It's your vehicle that is wanted.
It's your vehicle. That's the instrument of committing the offense.
Okay.
That's the one we work on. Okay. Because without the number plate, we will not be able to identify you.
Okay.
And that's the way we operate. But have had this, even we had reason to discuss over it. I think what it's trying to refer to is the one that is being operated by VIS. That's and really it has to do with the renewal of roadworthiness certificates.
But I guess that you all work together,
yes,
don't you? Because, I mean, it happened to me personally. I mean, in 2019, this year, I was stopped on the road and told that my roadworthiness for 2019 expired a few days before I went to renew it in 2020.
2019?
Yes. I had a valid roadworthiness certificate, but I was told that I had a ticket from 2019 which had to be cleared, otherwise I would not be allowed to move. My car would be impounded. And I said, but I went to renew my papers in 2020. Why wasn't I told that I had a ticket and asked to clear it before my papers were renewed in 2020? Oh, they say, I'm speaking grammar. The computer should have sent me a notice. I said, but the computer did not send me a message.
I think the modus
I had to pay a fine on the spot.
Yes, on the spot. I think the modus operandi of that particular system will be better explained by the director of VIS.
Now he dodges.
No, it's just a fact. It will be in the best position to explain the system.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I expected that you would raise that issue, yes, because you're not the only one who has had to go through. But let's go back to the road safety corps commander in Lagos. There are those who are also confused about what documents which agency of government can ask me. There are those who would say there are some papers that the police are empowered to ask you, those that no other agency but FRSC can ask you. VIS cannot ask you about this, it can ask you about this. Just to be clear, what papers are the drivers, motorists, users of the roads, what papers can a road safety official in any part of the country, what papers can they ask from a motorist?
Wow. Ours is a resultant request, if I may put it that way. We don't go out to start asking for documents or vehicles. Our area of interest is after you have committed an offense. Without an establishment, an offense being committed, we cannot just say, where is your vehicle papers? When we start asking you for vehicle papers, you should know that a primary offense has been established. So I don't have any reason to ask for your papers. When you drive in a manner that I suspect you don't have it, you are not a licensed driver. When you are flagged down, I'll say, good morning, gentlemen. Are you a licensed driver at all? They say, yes, I'm a licensed driver. This is my driver's license. And the next thing I say, sorry, you just overtook wrongly, and I'm going to book you for wrongful overtaking. If your driver's license is expired, I ask for your other vehicle documents. That's the vehicle papers, the roadworthiness, and insurance.
Yeah.
This is to assist you in order not to get your vehicle impounded. So we only request for those documents in Federal Road Safety Corps in lieu of truncating your trip. In a situation where it's expired or you don't have it, the vehicle is impounded until your fines is paid or you are back from the court. So those are the reasons why FRSC has contact with drivers' documents.
Okay. Just 1 second, sir. Are you saying that it is illegal for any road safety official to stop a vehicle for no reason at all? Under what circumstance is a motorist mandated to stop when a road safety official says stop?
By virtue of the Establishment Act, the law says when an offense is established to have been committed or suspected to have been committed. If I notice you are making call from afar while driving, the law permits me to stop you. If I notice you drove dangerously ahead, maybe even when you made attempt to overtake wrongly, and on sighting me, you flip back, the law says I should stop you. Okay. If I notice your vehicle's roadworthiness is the minimum safety standard is not maintained, the law says I should stop you. But not when you have not committed any offense, except I'm suspecting that an offense has been committed.
Okay.
So, and I said it, there could be a time when we are out, maybe if our intelligence enforcement has to do with bad tires, incessant crashes involved in tire burst, we could be out to look out for tires that are bad. I recall that I cannot suspect a tire that is bad while rolling.
Yeah.
At that point, I have the right to stop you to check your tires. So these are the various ways we carry out our enforcement.
You gave yourself as an example a short while ago, and you said if you stopped somebody, you would say, "Good morning, sir," or whatever, and then ask them the question. Are your men so well trained that they would be that polite to a road user?
That is the training given to them. And every FRSC, when it comes to issue of courtesy to road users, even many members of the public will give thumb up to FRSC by virtue of the training we have given to our men. If he does anything contrary outside, that is not. They said a lion should always behave like a lion. That is not the training given to them. And you have the right. I've said this severally. You don't get justice through the social media. You get justice by communicating back to the people that send them out. Okay. If in the course of encountering our men, they were rude in their conduct, they have their names, there's body codes on their vehicle, you can refer back to the management and say, I never liked the way I've had a series of complaints from members of the public, and the men are always sanctioned.
Okay. Permit me to ask you this question, because one of the things that you are out to do is to reduce issues of accidents to the barest minimum. Now, there's something that disturbs me as an individual, and perhaps a number of other people as well. Those who have reason to go out very early in the morning or have to return very late in the night usually have this arduous experience of blaring lights, the use of headlamps. Some use high beams all the time. Meanwhile, they're supposed to use the low beams, which cuts off the severity of the glare in their eyes at the level of the bonnet of the vehicle. Is there anything that can be done or is being done or should be done? Because I know that there is a law that says you know, the beaming that prohibits beaming of lights into the oncoming driver's eyes in the night and in the mornings, very early when it's dark. You have any thoughts on that? Because I also know that there's been a report from your office, from the FRSC, that it's also one of those things responsible for accidents when it's dark.
Let me say the assault from other road users against the oncoming vehicle is just an understatement. The bulk of the problems is with all these articulated vehicles with extra lights that are beamed and distract. So many crashes have been recorded in this regard. If you come to my office, you see where we have a pile-up of all these extra lights that have been detached from these trucks. And you agree with me that when it comes to issue of enforcement in Nigeria, it's always up there, very difficult because of the categories of people we are dealing with. So we believe our efforts, when we want to do enforcement, has to be complemented with more of enlightenment, that's sensitizing members of the public. If I can spend an hour or 2 hours attending to one vehicle on the highway, and you know that thousands of offenders will have gone. But I can reach out to millions of offenders through publicity and sensitization. That's why we spend all the necessary effort and resources in reaching out to members of the public. Like this one you just mentioned is actually quite germane when it comes to efforts to reduce road traffic crashes. Because most of the bulk of crashes that are recorded in the recent time happened at night. And if you assess it very well, these lights, the misuse and abuse of headlamps played major role.
Okay. Well, Mr. Olusegun Ogungbemide, Sector Commander, Federal Road Safety Corps, Lagos. All we can do now is just to wish you luck with this, your campaign. Thank you for coming to tell us about it and telling Nigerians about it.
Thank you.
So good luck, and we wish you happy Ember months.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Olusegun Ogungbemide, Sector Commander, Federal Road Safety Corps. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We're determined to rebuild and restore. Where freedom reigns and truth prevails. Our land where there's hope for us all. different tongues, we're united in our strength and resolve to uphold the honor of our land and for generations to come. And for generations to come. We'll defend our land. We believe in this nation, and we know we'll get there. We'll defend our land. We believe in Nigeria and the promise she holds, and that one day we'll shine like the sun. We're a great nation.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and for remaining with us so far on Sunrise this morning. Well, of course, as you can see, we want to talk about the vaccine hesitancy, which accounts for a significant proportion of the population. This can be assessed or addressed by public health messaging. But for a significant minority of the population with strongly held beliefs, alternative policy measures may well be needed to achieve sufficient vaccination coverage to end the pandemic. But of course, you may not be unaware of the fact that just recently some pastors are beginning to preach ill of the vaccination of their followers. And this comes days after the federal government mandated vaccination against the COVID-19 for civil servants, and saying that by the first day of December, civil servants in the country will not be allowed to come to work without the vaccine clearance. What does that mean? That's what our conversation this morning is about. We have Reverend Dr. Yakubu Pam, who is chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria's Northern Region. He is also Executive Secretary, Nigeria Christian Programs Commission in Abuja. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
As well as Professor Omohua Adeleye, who is of the Department of Public Health and Community Medicine, University of Benin in Benin City. He joins us virtually. Thanks for joining us this morning, Prof. Okay, we'll bring him on as soon as we have him. Let's begin with you, Reverend. First of all, it's like a two-edged sword, if I can say that. On the one hand is the raging coronavirus disease, which is, of course, we're in the third wave, and some are predicting that there's a fourth wave coming and all of that. And then there is the mandatory the mandates by the federal government that all civil servants, definitely across the nation, must begin to show their vaccine certificates. What's your thoughts on that?
First and foremost, the COVID-19 is already a fact on ground, that there is no doubt about it. The virus exists, and we have seen it from the practical sense of view. People died, and we have seen it that people are in hospital lying sick, diagnosed with it. And so there are ways that these problems must be solved. And you cannot solve this problem that have engulfed the entire globe on the basis of only faith. It has to be holistic, from government and also faith-based people like the church and the mosque who are preaching about faith, and also going into practical of the situations on ground, which protocol to the COVID has been given by government to people, to the public. And I think the government is doing possible best to see that we overcome it. And to be fair to the government of Nigeria, I think Nigeria is trying very, very well. Recently, we returned from the pilgrimage from the Kingdom of Jordan, and they allow Nigerians to go in because they know that Nigerians are really on top of the situation. But even at that, we passed through a lot there with the people we went with. We thank God no person died, but back home here, some people died with it. They got healed, but the infection has affected some part of their body. So in essence, I will say, I think the federal government is right in putting some practical measures. The federal government should not be condemned. Rather, it should be encouraged to see that these practical measures are taken seriously. And on the other aspect, the faith-based organization are also trying, because there are people who got healed through faith. But at the same time, they must also know how dangerous is this deadly disease in terms of putting a lot of people in one place. And the Bible says, love your neighbor as you loved yourself. And of course, if you love your neighbor, the compare of loving your neighbor is to yourself. So you should be able to know that if this virus is in your body and it passes to the next person, you don't know how many people will be infected because of you. And is that love to your neighbor? This is the second part of the commandment of God, which is very essential, very important. When Jesus Christ came on earth, he still emphasized on this loving your neighbor as you love yourself. It's very, very important. And so I will not be happy if I have this virus. I go to church with it, and I inflicted people with it in the church. There are weak people in terms of faith that may not have the faith that I have, that I got healed, I can stay without the vaccination and all that. We've not gone to the aspect of vaccinating. We're also talking about this thing is real. And measures on ground has to be put in place. And no one system alone can do that measure. Both the government and religion has to put measures on ground. Okay. And so when you condemn the other one, it looks like you alone has the whole figure. I mean, you have the solution. So, and I don't think so.
But good thing that you mentioned, the scripture, love your neighbor as yourself. But I believe that the same scriptures also says faith comes by hearing.
That's right.
And it would also seem that, people act or hold beliefs based on what they hear.
That's
over
right.
and over again. There have been a lot of conspiracy theories about the coronavirus vaccination, that, okay, if you take the vaccine, this is going to happen to you. If it doesn't happen in the immediate, it will eventually happen to you. And it will seem like the conversation or the communication or information from people, from the authorities and from, respected clergymen such as yourself, hasn't been strong enough to persuade people otherwise. How would you react to that? What else should be said or done to make people believe that indeed, just as you have said, the coronavirus is real, but so is the efficacy of the vaccines?
Yeah, the aspect of the vaccine is something that I have seen a lot of Christians and Muslims welcome it. I've also seen a lot of Christians and Muslims say, no, we will never, whether come rain, come shine. There are conservative people. Whatever you give to them, you tell to them, it takes them a slow time to adapt. And there are Christians that it's not easy for them to welcome a new thing. So that is not today. It has been long. I came from a church that is purely traditional, Pentecostal but traditional. And those days, we don't believe in issue of worldliness and whatever have you. And I can remember it was in the 70s, a brother was suspended in the church for bringing a video camera to cover his wedding because that is worldliness. So it took time for the church leaders at that time to begin to adopt and to accept that covering weddings is not worldliness. And some also think that getting a flashy car is worldliness. And you will bear me witness that even those who go on legal study to be barristers, lawyers, were being told that they are liars. And so you don't go to that profession. These are all sequence of things. And it's the same thing is happening today. When it comes to this, it takes time. Unfortunately, some ministers of God fall into the trap of this because they want to be relevant to the congregation always. And so they will say things that the congregation would like to hear. If you hear your congregation saying that this is, for instance, when the vaccine came, they say it's the 666. We've had that is the mark of the beast, and we've had that is from the pit of hell. We've had that, look, if you have this and that. But the history of vaccine has been there for quite a long time. We've been told that this kind of sickness has been here, or it happened some 100 or over 200 years ago, and it was like cold and people were dying. But vaccine came at that time, even as long as that time, and reduced it to a normal cold, and today people are working on it. And to me, when I grew up as a child, I've received a number of different vaccines. So if vaccine at then were to kill people, probably I should have died. So again, you wouldn't blame people because education has advantage and has disadvantage. When people are well educated, everybody wants to prove that his own research is the best. But those days in the church, when a leader speaks, nobody questioned you. But today, when a leader speaks in the church, even in the congregation, you hear some people say, no, this one that the pastor says is wrong, because people are educated.
Yeah, not just that. Maybe also they are obeying that biblical injunction where they say that they are like the Berean Christians who go back and forth to ensure that what they are hearing is the precise truth. But you know, further to what you're saying now is if you have, as you have said, it's a gradual thing because of the hesitancy is as a result of some historical perspectives that have happened over the years. Where then do you place the parts where the federal government is literally compelling Nigerians who work with them, as you know, some state, one or two state governments may have done already, to take the vaccine? Isn't that indicative that the enlightenment or the education about the coronavirus vaccination is not enough?
Yeah, I am actually not here to speak for the federal government, but from the perspective of my profession as a pastor and a church leader for the entire northern Nigeria, and also leading the Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission, I think that these are practical steps to help the federal government to make sure that those who are working and earning salary under the federal government of Nigeria should be supposed to be the first to ensure that these instructions by the federal government is completely, if not anything, 100% obeyed by them. And some people, for obvious reasons, maybe for other views they hear from outside, they are civil service, they are civil servants, they are functioning, earning their income from the federal government, yet they are not obeying the instruction of vaccine. And that is very dangerous to the government, the system itself, because you have people in-house that are yet to observe what you have said they should do. And this is not good to us.
Okay.
So I think, for me, a civil servant should obey the government, whatever it is. And if you come in terms of religion, the Bible tells us in the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2 or so, 3, that we should obey the instituted authorities, the kings and the governments. And I'm glad to see example of that in America. T.D. Jakes, who has a very big church congregation, when the coronavirus came in and the United States government gave this order, there was no people in his church. And in fact, he was so happy to preach by, what do you call it, Zoom, virtual and all the rest. And his members were happy.
Okay.
And I am so glad to see people obeying. I am the executive secretary, Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission. Israel, when I have gone on lockdown, this is the third one that happened when I was in Jordan. And most of the prophets, I would say almost all, came from the land of Israel.
Okay.
So if they can obey such an order from their government, I don't think we should be behind.
Okay. Let me also very quickly bring in Professor Adeleye. We introduced him earlier. Thanks for joining us this morning, Prof. Well, it would seem like it's a battle between human rights and what do we call it now? Medical expediency. Where do you sit on this, especially when you hear that the federal government has compelled that all civil servants under the federal government must vaccinate before December 1?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to correct you. The federal government did not compel that everyone in the federal employment be vaccinated before December 1st, 2021. What the federal government said was that all civil servants are expected or are directed to vaccinate, but there's an alternative. The alternative is that you present evidence of a negative test result from a polymerase chain reaction test, that you have been negative for COVID-19 in the preceding 72 hours. So there is an option. So if you don't want to vaccinate, then you must provide evidence that, if you don't want to vaccinate, provide evidence that you are negative for COVID-19 for 72 hours preceding that conversation. Now, let's talk about the idea, what brought about the idea of feeling compelled. Responsible citizenship should make us, in fact, seek vaccination. And it is also a part of responsible governance that the government is doing that. By the grace of God, I'm also a minister of Christ. What that is consistent with the word of God. Thank God a priest just spoke, and he made it clear also how that we ought to obey governments. But we are not dummies. We are not just obeying government for the sake of obedience. We are obeying government because the government is doing the right thing and is consistent with scripture. Public health preventive practices have their roots in the Bible. And I hope many people will realize and remember that physical distancing was very strongly practiced in Israel, even in the wilderness. While Israel was in the wilderness, God instructed that if you have a certain skin disease, if you have a certain discharging lesion, any discharging infection on the skin, the face, the nose, any of the orifices, the person should stay away from the general congregation until the person is proven to be clean. And the priest had the responsibility of ensuring that. So it is completely in order. Vaccination has been practiced for centuries. It is not new. We've been vaccinating our children. We've been vaccinating them for many, many decades. So it's not new. What is just happening now is that it has been this is now focusing on adults, and it has a global dimension. Now, there's no basis whatsoever for so many conspiracy theories. And if you let me go beyond that question, I want to appeal to our men of God, my colleagues in ministry. I beg you by the mercies of Christ, bring together the experts in your congregation, the doctors, the nurses, the scientists. Let them educate you before you come out and make pronouncements. Because once you make those statements and you discover that you were wrong, the moral obligation to go back and correct yourself may be more expensive once you said the wrong thing. So there must be restraint in making pronouncements. And if you don't know about a thing, don't talk about it. If you want to talk about it, then ask people who know so that you can say the correct thing. That way you will not have to withdraw your words. Therefore, I appeal. Pastors, evangelists, ministers of all kinds, all religious leaders, please take the initiative and go ahead and vaccinate yourself. Then let your congregation follow your good example.
The hesitation. Can you hear me, sir?
Very well.
Can you hear me, Prof?
Yes, okay. I can hear you well.
It will sound like you are. Yes, you're sending everyone back to read the book of Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
That's right.
Because those are where those recommendations that you have made are. But let's speak to the medical experience that you have about this issue. Well, what you said, I mean, that the federal government hasn't mandated. Well, it's also saying that the civil servants will not be allowed to come to work without the vaccine clearance, essentially saying they could lose their jobs. But anyway, the interpretation of that is left to anyone who has heard it. But then for those who are still hesitant, who still are unsure whether or not they have basis. I mean, Reverend Pam was saying the other time, we agreed here that what the Bible says, the faith comes by hearing. And you have also said that some people are going to make these pronouncements anyway. They have heard all kinds of conspiracy theories. Persuading them otherwise, they will probably need some form of assurance or confidence that indeed what they have been told, the counsel that you are giving to them now is more valid than the ones that they have heard before. There are those who believe that the information that they have is not compelling enough for them to go take the vaccine. What do you say to them?
Very good. So at this point, I would want to appeal to church leaders, religious leaders, to take the initiative. If they feel that the government is not doing enough in educating the public, then fill the gap. The government doesn't have to do everything. If there is not enough compelling education to the public to encourage vaccination, I actually agree with you, because we need more information, we need more education, we need more social mobilization efforts. And I happen to be one of those engaged in that, and I'm available any day, anytime. If you want me to address your congregation, sure, I'll be there to do just that, because communication is very key. Now, the absence of sufficient communication or mobilization cannot be treated or cured by saying the things that are not known to be correct. For example, if you say the vaccination is demonic, where is the demon? We've read scripture. I minister to many people spiritually. I don't see any evidence of a demon in the vaccine or vaccination, or in persuading people to go ahead and be vaccinated. In fact, we as leaders should be doing more in terms of mobilizing people to get vaccinated and provide opportunity to have questions answered. People have genuine questions, and it makes sense to have questions and to ask them. Let pastors provide a platform that will enable congregants to ask questions and have answers to their questions. And if you as a pastor have a question, then ask. When you ask, then you can get an answer. Then things can get better for Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Prof, just one more thing before I come back to the studio with Reverend Pam. There are those who, okay, for instance, just recently we heard the Lagos state government saying, for instance, that, look, the way things are going with this virus mutating over and over again, 2 shots may not be enough, and that those who have this, who have gotten 2 doses may still be infected, and some could still die from the coronavirus disease. And that the hypothesis is out there, you may want to confirm it or not, that there are still going to be worse mutations than this 3rd Delta variant that we have. If there are doubts on the minds of people, and even in the medical circles, that the 2-shot vaccine may not be strong enough to hold the infection or even taper down the severity. What then should people do? How should this be addressed, both by the government that wants people to be vaccinated and the people that need to be vaccinated?
Well, I don't know. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Now, if I understand you well, and I hope I'm responding to the question, the point here is this. If you lock up your door at night, you lock your protectors and the rest, it is in the hope that that no thief will break through and come in. But thieves break through and come in all the same. That means it can still happen. But do you, because of that, choose not to lock up your door and your protector and your gates? No. So it's about probability. Vaccination offers protection. The protection may not be 100%, but it is surely there. The protection is that on one hand, it will prevent, on one hand, the protection will prevent the person from becoming infected. Secondly, if you get infected, it will protect you from having a disease. Thirdly, if you have a disease, it will prevent you from having a severe form of the disease. And finally, if you have a severe form of the disease, the likelihood of dying reduces significantly. So the fact that somebody can be infected or it can get worse or you can be reinfected later is no reason for us to therefore abandon the protection that's available. As we speak, I'm aware that a lot of work is going on to develop better forms of the vaccine and ensure that we have something much better. For example, the Moderna vaccine has been shown to be apparently better than the other vaccines in some studies at having given 2 doses. So all sorts of studies are going on to get better protection. But to have the protection we have available for now is definitely better than nothing. So I enjoin all, let's go out there as responsible citizens, responsible Christians, responsible pastors, get vaccinated, and let's pray that we get better vaccines, and let's pray that this epidemic be over. Thank you.
And you're an expert in this area. And the reason that many people are giving for not taking it, for their skepticism, is that they don't feel that it is safe. So please tell us, how safe is this vaccine? Have you felt that it was safe enough for you to go and take it? Professor, did you hear me? Professor Adeleye? Professor, are you there? Oh dear. Well, Reverend Pam, pardon me for seeming like I am prying. You said that the federal government was doing the right thing by saying what it said, even though some people are protesting against it. do you trust the vaccine enough to have taken it?
Is it to me? Okay. Yeah, my dear sister, I have taken the 2 doses. And I trust it so much because I have been there, I've gone to the lion den, and I've seen people who couldn't come out of it. Just like I was saying earlier, we came back from Jordan barely 4 weeks ago for pilgrimage, and we obey all the COVID protocol in terms of traveling outside Nigeria with over 2,500 pilgrims. And when we went there, those who could not practice the vaccine were allowed to have the test. Even those who did practice the vaccine, you still have the test until it reads negative, then we allow you to travel. And at our host country, some people were coming back tested positive, but they have to hold them there and do all the treatments. And I've gone there over 4 times. All I was testing negative, 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 and come back to Nigeria. And one incident I was about sharing, a pastor who was there and tested positive. We kept him there for weeks upon weeks and until he tested negative, and we flew him back. But before then, the virus have dealt with his lungs, and he cannot breathe well until oxygen is applied. And so when he came back home, we had to buy an oxygen machine for him, and before you know it, he was resistant of oxygen machine. He wanted to practice the faith and all this. Faith is good. But 4 days later here in Nigeria, he died because of the lung issues. So like I said, I have gone to the lion den. I've seen it. I've seen how people, this thing is real. It's real affected. In fact, at a trip, at a batch, we have about 10 people positive. But we make all those arrangements. We have to go extra mile, and we have insurance, health insurance over there in Jordan, and we kept them and keep treating them until they become negative. And we start bringing them back home. So some of them add extra days to that. And we make sure that this protocol aspect of it is being followed. So to answer that question, I have done my own. I have the 2 doses of it, and that's why I can travel. And I also want to add to preachers that, look, you may be a local church pastor here, which you're enjoying your ministry Sunday to Sunday, Tuesday Bible class, and probably Wednesday or Thursdays week services. That is good, but there are people who are called to be evangelists across the country and the continent. And you cannot go outside Nigeria without this COVID protocol now. So if we begin to preach, we need to also see the other side of it, that the Bible says we should take the gospel all over the world. And if we are going to do that, definitely we must apply this COVID protocol and must let people know that this is real. And so that pastors will take it very serious. It's not every pastor that will remain in Nigeria preaching in Nigeria. There are those who have to go outside the country.
Absolutely.
And it's not every member of your church that will just be within Nigeria, within Lagos, Jos, Sokoto, Kaduna, Kano, and the rest. No, they will go outside the country. And so we need to let them know this. Don't limit our people. Don't keep them within the country alone. We should be able to tell them the truth, that this thing is workable. If you don't do it, you can't travel outside the country.
Okay. Well, just before we go, I know that Alera was trying to reach Professor Adeleye the other time. Alera, could you please go ahead? I believe we have Prof now.
Yes, Prof.
Just before we close.
Prof, I was saying, since you're an expert in this area, how safe is the vaccine? And is it safe enough for you to have taken it?
The vaccine is very safe indeed. I was just saying in response to you, Alero, that I happen to be one of those monitoring the vaccine safety in the country. I, in fact, I'm in charge of the south-south part of Nigeria in monitoring COVID-19 safety, which is called the Cohort Event Monitoring Study. And the data we have so far shows the vaccine to be even far safer than we had expected. People are monitored one by one. And in some cases, we even pay people to call in case they have any form of adverse events that they may wish to report. And most of the things we're hearing are just mild forms of fever, like we already know with childhood vaccination. So there's nothing so big about it. It's very, very safe. And you chipped in something as you spoke in your usual wisdom, Alero. Now, I say categorically that I am fully vaccinated. I have taken 2 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine. And so I'm speaking knowing that it is safe, not just for me, for people around me, for remote people far out there. And I expect that Alero, by now you should be vaccinated fully too. I hope so.
Oh, yes, Professor, I am fully vaccinated. I am a proud Nigerian. So, Ayo.
Well, yes, Alero, and I know that there are so many other people who will be as proud as you both, in fact, all of you are this morning. But it's gratifying to note what Prof said the other time, that there is monitoring going on because the concerns are definitely genuine. And to quote what Reverend said the other time, and you also alluded to, Professor, is the fact that the concerns are genuine and need to be addressed by the authorities in order to allay their fears, and they themselves, having taken the vaccines, become evangelists, vaccine evangelists, to use the words of Reverend Pam here. It's a good place for us to say thank you very much, gentlemen, for being in a part of our conversation this morning. Reverend Dr. Yakubu Pam is Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria Northern Region, and he's Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission, Abuja. He's been speaking with us along with Professor Omokhua Adeleye, who he has also said he is a minister of the gospel, as well as in charge of the Department of Public Health and Community Medicine, University of Benin in Benin City. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So up next is the home stretch, to use Alero's words again, right after now.
The judge case. One of my guy, he eye swell this morning. Why? One woman blew him for church. Why the woman blew him? He said yesterday, then they do conference. Say the woman sit down for in front.
Say that there's been shooting at the venue of the Congress at Ake Palace Ground in Abeokuta. It is unclear what the cause of the violence is, but people are said to be scampering for safety. The Congress of the party by the Governor Dakpo Abiodun-led group is holding at the MKO Abiola Stadium in Abeokuta, and the event is going on peacefully. That's breaking news for you. We'll take a break now and come back for the home stretch.
He's our artist of the week. He's a stand-up comedian with nearly I don't think it has to be decades. It can't be years. It's been, you know, along this line, a political satirist on radio and television. Please welcome Dandy Humorous. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Anyone who wants to know more about all the script that my producer put here, they can go Google it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, the first, I'm just going to take that joke, they didn't let us hear it.
The last one?
No, the previous one.
Okay, yeah.
So tonight, as a little bit
okay, so normally record gospel music inside. So why the guys doing was tonight, then in between you just hear, I want more of you, Jesus. Even if that boy is an Ogboni member, he will not continue that nonsense that he wants to do.
But what he said, he want more. I mean, the girl is already. What if the guy's name is Jesus? What if his name is Jesus?
If the guy's name is Jesus, anybody who is saying name of Jesus for street runner, that's his gospel Yahoo.
It's good to have you here.
Yes, sir.
How's it been?
Well, we've been moving, we've been pushing. We've come out of 2020, which was a very interesting
we came
year.
out more than 10 months ago.
No, it's coming out for us. So. Yeah, because it's like, for us, it was like people who came out of relationship. Yeah, so we needed time. To do what? To heal. And the audience, too, also needed time to heal. You know, because even when they said, okay, you people can come out, there were still some restrictions with public places, attendance. In fact, there was a wedding in Lagos where they said, okay, people can attend, but a certain number. And you know Lagos people, they're not the year word. So Lagos people attended the wedding. COVID task force came there. So everybody come out. They started doing the bouncer walk. He said, this is a wedding. You, who are you? Friend of the bride, sister of the bride, younger sister, direct sister, no steps. Enter. Yes, you, the son of the groom. Son of the groom, now second marriage. Oh, yeah. Enter. You, who are you? Friend of the cousin of the younger sister who went to school with the third cousin that knows the bride. Say, go ask, go ask, go ask. I notice the invitation will reach you. You know, so the audiences have been restricted a bit, but gradually, you know, I mean, with the vaccines coming out and with Nigerians keeping to the control measures, so it's beginning to look good for us at the time now.
Are you going to be asking? Oh, you say you have an event coming soon?
Oh yes, on Tuesday. Right here in Abuja. It's actually my show because I've done in Port Harcourt, I've done in Lagos, so I felt it was time to, you know, come to Abuja. So I'm using my catchphrase, which I use on TV, how are you? So it's Abuja, how are you? Okay. And I'm headlining. I have a fresh body of work to deliver for about an hour thereabout. And I have the likes of Timi Dakolo, DJ Neptune, we again said in plenty way there Kenny Black, Aporo, Funny Bone, all supporting me. It's on Tuesday, 6 p.m. at the Transcorp Hilton.
I'll send the invoice for this advert.
We're not the
But, you know, quick one. This whole, you know, I don't know, it's not funny to make jokes of such a situation as, you know, COVID-19 when people have lost their lives. But then you still find that, you know, there are some funny things that some people do, all in the name of wanting to get the vaccine certificate and things like that.
Yeah.
How do you see that?
Well, it speaks about the kind of society we have. We have a society where people want to jump the crowd at every given opportunity. People don't want to go through the due process. So even when it's time, when we had BVN, there are people who waited, didn't go for BVN until they saw that it was choking their transactions. And you still see them asking the bank, can't you people just do this thing for me without
showing up?
Without showing up, or without even having the BVN. You know, some Nigerians will tell you in every way that there is no way, there must still be a way, as long as a way is in the way.
Say that again.
In every way that seems that there will be no way, there must still be a way, even if there is no way. As long as way, the word way is inside, we'll remove the no from it and make it a way. You know, so we are used to people trying to jump the gun in this country, trying to usurp, you know, processes and everything. So even when it comes to things that will save your own life, you still feel that, you know, there's still a way to go around it. And then unfortunately, when you have people with conspiracy theories about this thing, thank goodness for the guest who came up before I came on set here, you know, to educate people and renew their minds on these things. So they, first of all, they have an impression, and then secondly, the lazy mindset say, must I really do this thing? Can't I find a way to do it? Then when somebody no be certificate, we'll go collect certificate. If we feel do one for university, do one for secondary school, even in some cases, do one for election, waiting come be vaccine. We no go fit do.
Can I quote you on that they did it for elections?
No, but they carry the news.
No, the way we get the news.
It's channels that I watch. So.
The way we get the news is we quote our sources. So can I quote you as a source that you know, people get certificates?
Wow, you'll be the first journalist that's calling out a source. I'm surprised.
No, I'm just right now we're not even live right now. Yes, we're not live. I'm just asking, just to be clear, you know, what exactly, you know, if this source is.
Okay, let me ask my own source. Then my source will relate to me, then your own source will relate to you.
Okay, I know Alera will want to ask you something, but, you know, stand-up comedy has come quite far. What's the funniest thing in the history of stand-up comedy that you can relate to right now?
When you say funniest thing, what are you?
What's the most unusual thing that you would say has happened to make stand-up comedy what it is?
Well, that's a question I had small. I know. Lie. What's the funniest thing that has made stand-up comedy work?
All you do is do funny, so you have to think of funny things.
No, this kind of thing, you know, when you ask some politicians question that they can't find the answer, they will not tell you, oh, that's a very good question.
they're using this to think.
I commend you for your professionalism and your understanding as a professional journalist, you know, to bring out this question that people have not really asked because they are afraid. But I like what you did. Now, going back to what you said. So going back to what you said, I think I will attribute that to the evolution of stand-up comedy. I will attribute that to the acceptance culture growing, because if you have a product and the market out there do not accept it, then there will be no need for it. But when you say funny, what comes to mind is probably certain things that are a bit awkward, a bit unusual.
That's the word.
So these days now, you find out that they call us for burials.
Uh-oh.
Yes, and even we are afraid. But we say, well, we are on our own. Now you call our phone. Now you know what you want here to hear joke inside the funeral. So make nobody hold me say a crack joke for funeral.
So what kind of joke is relevant for that?
So usually, and that's the dicey thing about what we do. Usually, when you go for any gathering, let's say you go for MDC gathering or Bond gathering, you probably want to start with materials that are broadcast related, TV, radio kind of thing, and then maybe from there delve as the spirit or the creativity leads. So, but for burial, you cannot come to burial and start to crack burial jokes. Say, that's how one man died last week. The way Papa just died now. You know? So you have to that creatively go like, oh, you see Daddy that just passed on, he's a great banker. And that's why bankers, you now start. So, but it comes with experience. In fact, from this work, then when I used to hear footballers say, this one, he's too old, he can't play, but he has experience. I said, what is experience? It's not to kick ball. But putting years into this job, I now understand that it comes with a level of experience.
Okay.
Because sometimes you go to some places and you have to even find out who is doing what, who there, who called you, the kind of people that are there. So it will select.
Otherwise, you will talk off points. Okay. Alera, you have something for Dandy Humorous.
Oh. Good morning, Honorable.
How are you, Alibi?
What was that? Good to see you
it's
again.
A short form of Alera, so. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yes, I see that one of your role models is Donald Trump. What's that all about? Please tell us about that.
Okay, so my love for Donald Trump began actually from the days of The Apprentice, you know, and then I read The Art of the Deal. In fact, I read it twice, again and again, and then I checked out certain things about him, and I found out that just like Alan Sugar, they are very... I will use the word, for lack of anyone, a good one I can remember now, crazy personalities, but they get the job done. And they usually get the job done in sometimes the most unconventional ways, the most unusual ways, and they refuse to be politically correct. You know, they don't care. But at the end of the day, somehow, some way, they get the job done. So that was my admiration for him since 2002 or 3 thereabout, when I came in contact with his person. So when people see stuff like that in my profile, they think, oh, it's from 2015, 2016. No. It's long like that. Now, politically, that was a totally different person. However, he still got the job done of winning the election in the most unusual way. And I was among the first people who said from the first day he came from that elevator or the escalator like this, I said, this guy will win this thing. Because people like this, they don't just do things because body they catch them.
So
they must have thought it out. So
what's your favorite Donald Trump joke?
Donald Trump joke. Should I crack that joke here?
So long as it's not vulgar.
No, it's not vulgar. Okay, so I usually say that, like, Trump is my guy, but the way he did, like, one day he just calls up the defense secretary and said, what's going on? the nuclear codes are not working. And then the first secretary said, wait till you go find there. What do you mean it's not working? I was testing just in case we will need it for Korea any day. So what thing were you going to use it for? Alero, back to you.
So, Honorable, so even after all that happened when he was president, you're still lining up behind him?
I'm a lawyer guy, and like I said, see, politics is a different ball of game. Is it ball of game or game of ball?
Ball game.
Ball and games, they work. It's a different thing. I mean, right here in Nigeria, we've seen certain people that maybe in business world, in whatever field they were in, they shone like the morning star. But immediately they delved into politics because of one reason or the other, maybe their party, people they were loyal to, whatever, they turn into something else. And sometimes you ask yourself, not be this guy that was like this. How come he's not performing like this and all of that? You know, so I've come to learn that politics is something that you have to, anybody going to, but you have to pray for them that they don't turn different from, from what they are. So how the whole political game worked, I believe that, his rascal personality and radical person has always been there. And I thought that somehow it would possibly get the job done. Okay. But then in politics, you come out to a wider world, a world of people that don't know you, but they feel that they have heavy opinions over you like they are your parents. Okay. So it's a different ball game for him.
Where are your people from? Where are you from?
Nigeria. I'm from River State.
River State?
Yes, Ikwere local government area.
With the governor?
Ilele town. Where am I with the governor?
No,
we're from the same tribe.
Okay.
The former governor, the present governor. Okay. All of us, we're in charge in the state.
And I chop together?
Yeah.
Really?
No, which of the governors? I don't understand where this question is going to.
It's always good to find out.
No, we chopped briefly back then. Okay. We chopped briefly back then. But now we are all right.
We're all right.
Everybody's answering their papa name now.
Do you have a special joke for any of them?
For any of them? You're putting me on this one. Yeah, I do.
Where else am I supposed to put you?
I mean, outside the sport. Actually, for the present governor, I mean, on social media, we call him the cruise master. So they use him for several memes, But the beautiful thing is that he's a governor who has a different voice. And he's a man that, if he were in the choir, he would be the choir master. Because he likes people to complete sentence for him. So he come here and say, I'm happy to be in Channel's team. Because on this show and the Sunrise, is it Sunrise Daily?
This is Sunrise.
I'm happy to be in Sunrise. For some reason, you always find something. And he gives you people work, people will interview him. It's only you channels that are very professional. I see your son when I go the lock face, when I go agree. You go come wait for when I complete the sentence. These people, they are coming to rig. The election. They are coming to rig the election.
Well, God help you. He's watching you right now.
No, he's my good friend. Oh, he's my good friend. We are all from Ikwere together. And too much, we'll settle it with champagne.
Well, Alero, I think it's time to let this guy go, unless you have something else for him.
Dan,
I just came.
Honorable Dan, we need to let you go before you have us rolling on the ground. Thank you very much for coming, Dan the humorous.
Thank you so much.
Just before we close today's program, just to say that we have breaking news for you. Ogun APC State Congress, organized by the Senator Ibikunle Amosu Group, turns violent. Reports from our correspondents say that there's been a shooting at the venue of the Congress at Ake Palace Ground in Abeokuta. It is unclear what the cause of the violence is, but people are said to be scampering for safety. The Congress of the party by the Governor Dapo Abiodun-led group is holding at the MKO Abiola Stadium in Abeokuta, and the event is said to be going on peacefully. And with that breaking news, we close today's Sunrise, which came to you from Lagos and Abuja. I'm Alero Edu in Lagos, wishing you a happy week till we meet again next week. And my partner in Abuja.
And from here, the Yes, the capital city, Ayo Makinde, saying, have a wonderful rest of your weekend and please be safe. Bye for now.